It's 2025, folks, and I hate to be the one to tell you this, but games, they've become a little bit stale, haven't they? Is it just me, or is every game now wrapped in a story of revenge, tragedy, or loss? Or they're a coming of age story wrapped in revenge, tragedy, and loss? And as a result, to me, games seem to have lost a little that spark of creativity, the joy of gaming, the happiness the games once enshrined in their very design seems to have been lost to the ages. Now I know I'm not alone in this, but it is something that me and my friends talk about around depressed pints in the pub. We lament the old days, fun, whimsy, and colour. And often we finish these conversations with, why don't they make games like that anymore? We all sit around thinking, those days are gone and they're never coming back. Or so we thought. Step up Yooka Replaylee from Playtonic Games, a love letter to the rare platformers of the N64 era, and a throwback to a gaming world full of colour, life, whimsy, and good old fashioned British humour, and just a little bit of social commentary. So the question is Yooka Replaylee more 50 winks, or is it the long awaited, long yearned for true sequel to Banjo-Kazooie 2? I'm Mr. Lova. This is High Scores, High Stakes. Let's review Yooka Replaylee. Before we get into the review, I just want to thank Playtonic Games for supplying me with a code for this game for this review. They have given me no instructions on what to say or how to say it, and they have not seen this video, nor have they asked me to change anything. So, enjoy the review. Let's talk about what Yooka Replaylee is and what it isn't. This is not a remaster of Yooka-Laylee. This is a from the ground remake that addresses the major complaints both critics and players had of the original game. This is Playtonic's mulligan, and it is their chance to create the game they always wanted to. What this means in real terms is they have kept Yooka-Laylee's skeleton, but put on a whole lot of new flesh over that skeleton. They have changed so much about this game from the original one. First and foremost, they've reimagined the worlds. This means that they have doubled Yooka-Laylee's game content. They've added brand new challenges to every game world, and the old ones have either been improved, immeasurably improved, or replaced. They have also refreshed Yooka-Laylee's moveset. What this means for gameplay terms is that access to all of the moves are available to the player from the start of the game. Gone is the upgrade system, and they've even added new ones on top as well that all add tangible gameplay benefits. They've upgraded the tonic system, so that means that there's now 35 tonics that each offer gameplay modifications. Some make a game easier, some up the challenge for you experienced collectathon players. They've added PG tracking, which was one of the major complaints from the original game. That means that the map is brand new. It shows you where everything is, and they have added a collectibles tracker that allows you to see warp points, NPC points, and PG locations if you've seen them in the game world. The art has been completely overhauled here. Art, it hasn't just been enhanced, but every game texture has been completely redone. Every world has more props, new props, and objects added to the game that really enhance the setting. Finally, the soundtrack has been completely redone and it has been orchestrated beautifully by the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra. So that is everything they've added, everything they've changed. How good is Yooka Replaylee? Let's find out now. Let's start with the story of Yooka Replaylee, because the story is basically the same as the original Yooka-Laylee. You are playing as Yooka and Laylee, and you are taking on the nefarious capital B. However, Playtonic have done something really intelligent with the storytelling here. Basically, what they've done is they've taken the original story, and it is Yooka and Laylee retelling the story of the original game. Now, the way they've done this is it is done in a gorgeous storybook fashion that they are reading to one another, and it frames every little difference that Playtonic have made to the story, and they do it in a really funny way, I think is the best way of putting it. They do it in an incredibly intelligent and incredibly humorous way. Basically, everything that has changed is sold to the player through Yooka and Laylee's either exaggerations of the original story or through their lack of memory. They'll say things like, I can't remember what really happened. I think that's what happened. It is incredibly intelligent of Playtonic, and it is so funny as well. I find myself laughing at these little points in the story. Now let's talk about Capital B for a little minute. So who is Capital B? Capital B is an evil capitalist. He is a CEO, and his major plan for this is to digitize every book in the universe, of course, to sell for a profit. He's a capitalist after all. But the thing he wants more than anything, the reason he's collecting these books, is because he wants the fabled one book. Now, this one book has the power to shape worlds in the way that it's written on its pages. And obviously, having the one book will make Capital B not only the richest man on the planet, but also the most powerful man on the planet. But unfortunately for him, the one book is sentient, and it does not want this. It does not want to be owned by anybody, and it sheds its pages across the 5 worlds of which you'll be visiting in Yooka Replaylee. Which means Capital B needs to get these pages back. So he does what every great villain does. He manipulates our titular duo into collecting these pages for him. Now, the story here of Yooka Replaylee is really well told. I know one of the original complaints of the original one was it was really poorly paced. Here, it is not poorly paced at all. The story keeps going at a rapid clip. It keeps you interested and it keeps you playing. But the way the story is told here is fantastic. It is full of banter between all of the characters. Yooka and Laylee have a great relationship where they will follow the stereotypical duo in video games. One is the serious one, or the more serious one, and the other one is the quick-witted, quipping sidekick. Capital B is also extremely funny. He has a sidekick called Dr. Quack, and their relationship is totally cartoon. It is like a Saturday morning cartoon stuff. Quack is obviously the brains of the operation. He is the one with all the plans, but Capital B wants all the credit. So how this works out then is Quack comes up with the idea, Capital B steals it, and then verbally barrages Dr. Quack. And it is very, very clear very early on in this game that Dr. Quack has an inferiority complex and is completely subordinate to Capital B despite being the man with the plan. The relationship between Capital B and Dr. Quack is utterly fantastic. And the backs and forths and the little cutaways and the cutscenes between the two of them are always worth a watch. They always got a laugh from me. Likewise, the relationship between Yooka and Laylee is absolutely superb. The amount of back and forth that they have throughout their adventure is just incredible. It is funny, it is warm-hearted, and it reminded me of the days gone by. It's very much in the vein of Banjo-Kazooie and other games of its ilk. Sure, it's not going to be for everybody because it's filled with puns and it is full of dad jokes, but they know their audience. And for me, all these terrible jokes, more often than not, they hit than they missed. I find myself laughing, and I find myself really looking forward to the next cutscene. Just when I thought Playtonic couldn't go any more British humor on us and give me something else to laugh at, they introduce a merchant character very early on who is a snake, and his name is Trouser. That is top tier comedy right there, folks. Harkens back to the days of Rick Mail, Adrian Edmondson. It is toilet humor at its finest, and I was here for it. I love the comedy here. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Whilst the story is very light-hearted and really well written and really well told, and it does like being funny, we are living in a time period where publishers are shying away from being overly political. And I'm looking directly at Ubisoft as I say this. There has been many an occasion where a game publisher has said, no, this game is not political, when it is clearly political. Playtonic unapologetically takes shot after shot at corporate mindsets, corporations, capitalism. Keep in mind, Playtonic are made up of former Rare developers, and I have no doubt in my mind that most of the shots they're taking at all these CEOs and corporations are directed straight at Microsoft. And it is not veiled, it is not hidden, it is right there, front and center of the stage. This is a satirical take, albeit cartoonized to the max, but it is a satirical take on capitalism and corporations becoming super corporations. And do you want to know what? The story in Yooka-Laylee is superb. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I was looking forward to seeing how it was going to develop, and I was not disappointed by the storyline of Yooka-Laylee at all. It is really well paced, really well told, really well written, and it has a little bit of everything in there that I look for in my video games. The storyline of Yooka-Laylee was not one aspect I was expecting to rate so highly, but I really do. The story's great, but does it really matter if the gameplay isn't up to scratch? So is Yooka-Laylee a good game to play? Is it as good to play as it is to watch? First of all, let me explain what Yooka-Laylee is. Yooka-Laylee is a classic Rare-esque N64 collectathon 3D platformer, and it sticks to that formula rigidly. It is a classic collectathon. There are 5 worlds connected by an overworld. In Yooka Replaylee, it is called Hivory Towers, which is the corporate headquarters of Capital B. And to access each of the 5 hub worlds, you must collect the right amount of pages to unlock the doors in order to access those little levels. So the first one's called Tribal Stock Tropics. That is where you start. It is the first one. It costs you no pages. The second one is Glitter Glaze Glacier. To open that door, you need 15 pages. Then the third one is called Moody Maze March. Costs you 35 pages. The fourth one is called Capital Casino. It'll cost you 55 pages. The fifth one is called Galleon Galaxy. That'll cost you 75. And then to access the final boss fight with Capital B will cost you 125 pages. This sounds like an awful lot of pages you have to collect in order to see the game through, but it is about 1/3 of the total available pages. You will not struggle to get through this game, and I think the low bar for each door is what keeps the story going so nicely at a great pace. I think if it was any more, it would slow the storyline down far too much. And I believe that was one of the original criticisms most people had about the original one, was it took too long to get to the next stage to keep you going. So each of these worlds are a moderately sized sandbox. They're completely open, in which you are free to roam, explore, and take part in all sorts of challenges given to you from different NPCs. Your job here is to collect pages. Collect pages, pagey pieces, there's quills, and there's quids. And there is so much to see in this around every corner. You will never find yourself going too long without finding something to collect in this game. The worlds are brimming with personality and things to see and do. Moving around with the move set that is fully open to every player from the very beginning is gratifying. Everything is fun to do. Walking, running, rolling, jumping, gliding, swimming, everything feels great. And because there's so much in each world, not just to collect, but the enemies are themed perfectly for the area in which they're in. They are all different in every level. They do have the same sort of themes, base sort of enemy designs, but they are themed perfectly for where they are. It just makes every area of Yooka Replaylee to feel really alive. And because there's so much to see and do, you will automatically, by great game design, want to explore everything and everywhere. The challenges you find are really, really varied as well. They range from platforming challenges. Some of these are really easy, other ones, especially later on, are really difficult. There's combat challenges, there's puzzle challenges, there's races, there's mine carts, and there's just basically anything and everything Playtonic could fit in this game. The moment-to-moment gameplay here is really, really, really good. Even for me. Now, I'm a guy who never liked the rare formula when it came to the N64. I don't particularly enjoy 3D platformers. I've certainly never enjoyed a collectathon. But for me, and the way this game played, and the amount of fun it is to play, it feels like the Banjo-Kazooie 3 that everyone wanted, but we never ever got. Everything feels great. Moving around the world, platforming. There's even one section where you're flying a helicopter. It all is really graceful, seamlessly integrated. Everything, and it's perhaps the most important part of any 3D platformer, everything is predictable. Everything is reliable. If you fail at a platform challenge, you cannot complain about the physics. You cannot complain about the controls because it is unwavering. If you fail, it's because you failed. You cannot blame the game here. For me, as not a major platformer fan, I think the platforming in Yooka Replaylee can compete with the best in class. It is up there with any platformer not made by Nintendo or Astrobot, to be fair, but it's up there. The first 3 hours of Yooka Replaylee are a whirlwind of new and exciting mechanics. There is exciting surprises of gameplay around almost every corner, and there's this really satisfying mechanic stacking that Playtonic implement. They teach you something and then let you use it, and then they'll teach you something else and then they'll let you use it. And then the next challenge will be, okay, see those two things we taught you? Can you do them together in order to compete in this challenge? And it is brilliant gameplay design. It's tutorialization through gameplay, and it's magnificent. And it is really, really, really Nintendo-esque the way Playtonic have designed this game. And it just keeps the challenge of Yooka Replaylee just going up in a really nice difficulty curve. But that was the first 3 hours. After the 3 hours had passed, I felt like I had seen every mechanic that Yooka Replaylee had to offer. And gameplay after the 3 hour mark was very rinse and repeat. I felt like everything I was doing in every game world I had done in previous game worlds, except for the odd one or two. But mostly speaking, First 3 hours was like, wow, this is new, this is different, this is exciting, this is great. And then for the gameplay after that, it was just the same things cycled over and over again. But I never stopped having fun. That's the best part of it. I never stopped having fun. This game never stops being fun. It is extremely fun to the point where I couldn't stop playing it. I had to see what was going to happen next. I had to see the next world. I had to see what the next bunch of enemies of that world looked like. I had to see the next cutscene between Capital B and Dr. Quack, or the next interaction with Yooka and Lily. I think what I'm trying to say here is Yooka Replaylee doesn't rewrite the collectathon book in any sense of the word, but what it does is it takes the collectathon book, proofreads it, makes changes, and makes sure that the finished book is of the highest quality. So the story of Yooka Replaylee is good. The gameplay is good. What about the graphics? Well, everything in Yooka Replaylee looks really good. It's an incredible looking game. It is a beautiful looking game. The worlds all pop with vibrancy and their color. And through the stages themselves, as I said, the areas look great. The stage dressing looks great. All of the enemies look great. The worlds are quite large, but there is a really impressive density in props, items to collect, variety of enemies, and everything that you really need for a compelling gameplay experience. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. There is always something to catch your attention and drive your gameplay in every moment of Yooka Replaylee. And speaking of moving and movement, the animations in Yooka Replaylee are utterly incredible. There is a beautiful flow between everything. When you go from running to jumping to spinning in the air to gliding, attacking, they all beautifully play out. And the blending in between everything you do is better than some of the animations in some games that have a way higher budget and a way bigger team making it. For me, Playtonic really flexed their muscles with the animation in Yooka Replaylee, and they really showed their experience when it comes to crafting how a game of this type should look and how it feels to play. And it isn't even all these big things either. There's lots of little touches that most people will probably never notice, but it all adds to the impressive visual fidelity of Yooka Replaylee. There are simple things like how the foliage sways, how it reacts to you, the player, as you move through it, the snow that it real time reacts and leaves trails and where you've walked, the fact that there's non enemy animals running around, and there's this really subtle rhythm in everything in the background. It just everything moves in a subtle rhythmic way. It all adds up to a game that looks incredible most of the time. Um, and best of all, and probably the best showing of Playtonic's experience in making games of this type is they've shown a real control over what they have done in this game visually. Like all this detail, all these animations, everything that's going on all the time in Yooka Replay could have really easily, in the hands of a development team with less experience, it could have descended into visual mess, a visual noise where nothing is clearly defined, but it never ever does here. Yooka Replaylee looks amazing, has tons of visual flourishes and touches, but its pathway through its levels are always clear. You know where to go, you know what can and cannot be jumped on, and the enemy placement is superb. An enemy will never surprise you unless Playtonic wanting to surprise you. And you know where you're going and what you can and cannot jump on. It is just an amazing job from a visual perspective. As a side note to this, I played this from start to finish on my Steam Deck. It ran beautifully. I play all my games on Steam Deck at 40 frames per second. This game was rock solid from start to finish, regardless of what Playtonic threw at it. I noticed no frame drops at all during my game time. However, I did feel a frame timing issue. It was kind of like in Bloodborne. My Steam Deck was telling me this game was running at a rock solid 40 frames per second, and it was running smoothly the whole time. But especially near the beginning of this game, I felt like a stuttering. It didn't feel as smooth as the system was telling me it was running. And I don't know if I just got used to it really quickly or if it was just a shader compiler or maybe it was updated, but I stopped feeling that after about 20 minutes, half an hour. It's not a game breaker, nor is it a deal breaker. It's just worth mentioning. So if you do play games on your Steam Deck, this runs great and feel free to do it. I did it. I think it's fantastic. Okay, so we've looked at story, we've looked at gameplay, we've looked at all the additions and stuff. The last thing really to look at here is the sound. And the sound design is something that needs spoken about here, I think. There is a bone of contention that will not be everyone's taste, but it needs to be addressed. First and foremost, the music. The soundtrack is excellent, but I don't know what else you would expect from when Grant Kirkhope is involved at all. He always does a great job. The best thing about the music is it really does a superb job of supporting what's going on in the moment to moment gameplay, and it does a superb job of emphasizing boss fights or story beats. The music, especially the way it's been orchestrated, is excellent. Really, really, really excellent. The sound effects, game worlds, it are also incredible. From the crunch, the way the snow crunches as you walk over it in Glitter Glaze Glacier, to splashing into the water in Moody Maze Marsh, it also sounds awesome when it comes to game world sounds. However, the dialogue. The dialogue, there is no voice acting. Well, that's not true. There is voice acting, but it's all in gibberish. The characters make noises, but they say no words. Now, this is not going to be to everyone's taste. I thought that these gibberish sounds would grate on me after a while, but to be honest, it never really did. Um, your mileage may vary on that. Okay, so I suppose the final question here is Yooka Replaylee good? Is it a worthy upgrade from the original ukulele? And should you upgrade from the original ukulele? Well, full disclosure, I never played the original. As I said at the start, this is not my genre at all, but I can tell you right now that Yooka Replaylee is definitely worth a buy. Is it the most original platformer you'll ever play? No. Does it need to be the most original platformer you will ever play? No. This Yooka Replaylee is the most fun I have ever had with a rare style collectathon. It is fun. It is so fun. It is a game that has a lot of heart, a lot of whimsy, a lot of really excellent gameplay design. It has varied gameplay and it has a story that is brilliantly told, and it does just enough to keep you on the hook. So if you want to play a game that's fun, that will bring you back to a bygone era of gaming, and that will give you endless moments of discovery, keeps you laughing, and just brings back the fun that the industry has kind of lost, especially over recent years. You could do so much worse than Yooka Replaylee. It's not perfect. It can get repetitive, especially if you're going after all 300 pages. But for a casual playthrough just of the story, I fully recommend it. So the time has come. Where is this going on the patented high scores, high stakes tier list? Let me talk you through what the tier list is. S tier to D tier. S tier is incredible. A tier is great. B tier is good. C tier is it's okay. And D tier is it's terrible. I am going to put Yooka Replaylee at a very, very high B tier. This is a very good game. It is well made. It is well worth your time. And if this is a game that in a genre that you like, buy it yesterday.